Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today we're going to be going over the Magicka Dragonknight for Markarth. Now, let's go ahead and dive into it. I have 37.3k max Magicka, 17k max health. You know, as a DPS you do want to stay between 16.5 and 17.5 by yourself. That's with food and all. So, just keep that in mind. You really don't need any more than that. Magic recovery is 1.2. Our spell damage is 1.9 unbuffed, and our spell critical is 61.9. Now, I'm Britain, so you may have to adjust and do whatever you need to. But I have 52 points into Magicka, 12 into health to get that 17k. The boon that we're running is the Shadow, and the food that we're running is Witchmother's Potent Brew. So, champion points. We have 31 into Warlord, 25 into Sprinter, 64 Tenacity, 75 Arcanist, 38 Shadow Ward, 37 Tumbling. Now, Tenacity and Arcanist are the main two to focus on. If you wanted to, you could take Arcanist and Tenacity 64 and then focus on other things. And then after that, you have some options. You can either work on Break Free and Sprint, or if you find yourself bashing a lot, use Bashing Focus. If I'm in a part where I need to use Bashing Focus, I use the skill, which I'll get to that when we go over the skills. So I don't really have any points here into Bashing Focus. Or you can put some points into blocking and roll dodging, or even sneak if you sneak around a lot. But mostly due to the fact you want 75 for Treasure Hunter, which this is a great passive. It increases the quality of items you find in treasure chests. Now that's chests from dolmens, dungeons, overland, trials, whatever. If it's a chest, you have a chance of getting better quality items. So it's really worth having, especially if you're farming early on for gear to sell for money. This can really make it easier for you, especially when it comes to getting that purple necklace or ring, you know. So now in the red tree, 31 Ironclad, 31 Spell Shield, 32 Light Armor Focus, 64 Hardy, 64 Elemental Defender, 11 Bastion, 37 Quick Recovery. Now, Hardy and Elemental Defender, I would say, would be the first two to focus on. And then after that, Ironclad. Once you get Ironclad to at least 28, then you can put on Spell Shield and Light Armor Focus, or increase your healing receive, whatever you need to. But get these two to at least 64, or you can take them up together. You don't have to take one then take the other. And get Ironclad to 28 before I would focus on any of these other four. That's just me. But you do whatever you feel like helps you survive. Now, in the blue tree, we have 56 in Elfborn, 64 Elemental Expert, 20 Spell Erosion, 23 Staff Expert, 51 Master at Arms, and 56 Thermometer. Now, you can pull these points out of Staff Expert and include them into Elfborn, get your crit up a little higher. But I don't know. I just like this. I just like having my light and heavy attacks do a little extra damage. So, but it's up to you. When it comes to DK, or your Elfborn, Elemental Expert would be the first two you focus on. And then after that, Thermometer and Master at Arms. This will increase your dot damage, which you have a lot of as a DK. And that's where a lot of your damage does come from, is dots. Or you can focus on the initial burst from the dot, the initial impact hit. So, it's up to you, whichever one you feel like you want more, either the dot damage or the initial hit. It's up to you. And then Staff Expert and Spell Erosion, you can put in whatever after that. So, sets. First set we're running is a pretty popular set. It's pretty much a staple on a Mag DK, and that's Burning Spellweave. This comes from City of Ash, and it's a fun set. Now we're running this on the staff. We're running a Precise Flame Staff with a Flame Damage enchant. Now what this set does, it gives us max Magicka, spell damage, spell crit, and when we deal damage with a flame damage ability, you'll apply the burning status effect to the enemy and increase your spell damage by 473 for 8 seconds. This effect can occur once every 12 seconds. So you're pretty much going to have this up all the 8 seconds. So it's going to be down for 4 seconds and then up for 8. So shouldn't have any issues applying this. Now on our back bar, we're running the Maelstrom Inferno Staff, infused with a weapon damage enchant. What this does is your light and heavy attacks deal an additional 1.3k damage to enemies in your wall of elements. Now on top of this comes from normal Maelstrom Arena. It's very easy to get in there and do. It takes anywhere between 20 minutes to 30 minutes. It's very easy to knock out. It might take you more than one run, but just keep farming it until you get that stat. It is very worth it, and you will see a huge jump in your DPS. Now, the Burning Spell Weave, we have it on the front bar, and then we're running it chest, waist, and legs, all divines, all with max Magicka. Now, for the monster set, we're running Maul the Infernal. Now, this comes from Banished Cells 2, and so it's a pretty easy one to get. Now, you also have Groftar, which is a pretty nice set to run. So you can really go whichever one you want. Either Groftar, Maul the Infernal, Valken Scoria, or even Zons. You can't go wrong with any of those sets, but when it comes to the sets to get, Maul the Infernal is probably the easiest one to get, and it's also one of the top end sets right now. The Groftar is probably the second easiest one to get, followed by Scoria, and then Zons. So it's up to you on whichever you want. The easiest one being one of the better sets right now. I just figured to go ahead and rock this. Now what this set does is that it gives us max Magicka, and when we deal damage with a light or heavy attack, you have a 33% chance to summon a fire-breathing Daedroth for 15 seconds. Daedroth's attacks deal 5.1k flame damage and alternate between Fire Breath, or Fiery Breath, Fiery Jaws, and Jagged Claw, which alternate once every 2 seconds. Daedroth can only be summoned once every 15 seconds. So, if you have trouble light attack weaving, then this probably isn't the set for you. Go with Groftar when it comes to the easier sets to get, or Valken Scoria. Either one of them will work for you. If you're having trouble light attack weaving. If you're not having any of that trouble, where you drop an ability, you light attack, drop an ability, light attack, that's light attack weaving. So if you don't have any issues with that, like if you have trouble doing that, then Maul the Infernal might not be the set for you. Go with Groftar, because Groftar just procs off of damage. So, and you can't go wrong with either one. So, we're running a heavy helmet Divines with max Magicka, and then medium shoulder Divines with max Magicka. You can have these reversed if you want. Doesn't matter as long as they're in Divines. That is what you want. The helmet can be infused if you feel like you need more Magicka. That won't be much of a difference, but Divines is what you're wanting. Now, our final 5-piece set, you have two options. We're running Mother Sorrow. And what this does, this comes from Deshawn. It gives us max Magicka and then spell critical. That's it. Just a ton of spell critical. We're running it gloves Divines, boots Divines, necklace, and rings, all arcane, all with spell damage. Now, of course, the better setup would be 3 bloodthirsty, 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, 2 infused, 1 bloodthirsty, whichever one. All that will give you better DPS than arcane. So, just if you have the transmutation crystals, go for it. They're very easy to get. So, but just know, arcane is what we have right now. You don't want, well, you don't want protective or swift or something like that if you do transmute. I've seen some people running swift. I don't know why, but no, you don't want that. Arcane, if you don't really have the transmutation crystals. If you do, bloodthirsty and infused is the way to go. So, now, the reason why we're running Mother Sorrow, all 5 on the body, 2 on the body and 3 on the jewelry, is because we want this static at all times. Burning Spell Weave, it may proc on our front bar, but if we proc it, it's still, well, there we go. Even though we proc it, it's still going to be there on our back bar. You can see it glow around the hands. So it will fall off when it runs out. But if we have Mother Sorrow on our front bar and Burning Spell Weave on at all times, when we would bar swap, we would lose our extra crit, and we want to keep that. Now, Mother Sorrow comes from Deshawn. Now, if you don't want to farm another set of these, say you got one on another character or whatever, and you don't want to farm another set, there is a nice little set here called Medusa. It is very nice. You can get this. Arc Screnium isn't really that complicated. You just run it on normal, or well, not normal, but vet for the jewelry, and it gives you a ton of spell critical. Plus, it gives you minor force at all times, increasing your critical damage by 10%, and that will free up a slot on your bar for a shield, a heal, another damage ability. Doesn't matter. But this is a heavy armor set, so you're going to have to wear jewelry, 1-piece body, or jewelry and 2 pieces body. That is your best bet. Chest and legs are the way to go because they're going to give you more resistances. So it make you a little more tanky, but honestly, if you're running this and you get gloves and waist and divines, you don't have, you can go ahead and rock that. It's not that big of a deal. But then your monster sets will have to be light armor as well. So if you run Medusa, the jewelry comes in healthy, so you will have to transmute them. So if you have the transmutation crystals, Medusa is a good set to run, and you'll have to wear 2 pieces of it on the body. Now, if you do that, you can't wear the heavy monster set medium shoulder. So you're going to have a light monster set and a light shoulder. Just bear that in mind when you do run that. Because if you don't, then you're not going to be in 5 light. And that's a problem. So, just a little heads up. But Mother Sorrow from Deshawn, Burning Spellweave, City of Ash, 1 or 2. Maw the Infernal, Banish Cells 2. Graftar, Vaults of Madness. So, Medusa, Arc Screnium. Really good sets, really to have. And unfortunately, with Magic characters, with the changes that they made to critical, spell critical, if you use another set, like Flame Blossom. I was trying out Flame Blossom, and I had fun with it. But due to this patch, they made some changes to critical. Your crit drops down to 45%. So if you can manage that, then by all means, you can still run the 5 Flame Blossom, 5 Burning Spellweave. But for me, I want to have that crit a little higher than 50%. And as a Magic user, really the only way to get that is to run a set like Medusa or Mother Sorrow. At least for the DK. Some characters you can get away without having it due to built-in passives. But for the Mag DK, they don't have any other way to get that extra crit outside of Mother Sorrow or Medusa. So, skills. Our main spammable is Molten Whip. We lash an enemy with flame, dealing 8.3k flame damage. If you strike an enemy that is immobile or stunned, you set them off balance. While slotted, whenever you activate a different Ardent Flame ability, you gain a stack of Seething Fury, which increases the damage of your next Molten Whip by 33%, and your weapon and spell damage by 75 for 5 seconds. This effect can stack up to 3 times. Now, this is our spammable, but you do have options. If you can't really get close, you can go with Force Pulse or Crushing Shock. Normally I have Crushing Shock here. I think I was trying something out and I haven't switched it back. But normally I have Crushing Shock here, which also interrupts. So if there's a part, let's say like the final boss in Ice Reach, where you have to, Ice Reach, where you have to bash the witch. Crushing Shock is a good ability to have. When it comes to spammables, Force Pulse, Molten Whip are the two I would go with. If not, you can always go with Elemental Weapon from the Citric line if you want to use that. So, it's up to you. Me, but I would either go with Molten Whip or Force Pulse. Or Crushing Shock, my bad. Crushing Shock. Second ability, Burning Embers, slash an enemy with flame, dealing 4.1k flame damage and an additional 14.6k flame damage over 14 seconds. Heals you for 75% of the total damage inflicted when the effect ends. Enemies hit by the initial hit are affected with the burning status effect. So, it's just a really strong dot, really nice to have. Engulfing Flames, exhale a flame and blast enemies in front of you, dealing 6.1k flame damage and an additional 11.3k flame damage over 14 seconds. Affected enemies take more damage from all flame damage attacks based on your offensive stats, with a maximum of 10% bonus damage taken. Current value 8%. Now this is our heal. Coagulating Blood. Draw on your Dragonic Blood to heal for 7.9, increasing by up to 33% additional healing based on your missing health. If you're close to death, you can go right back to full with this. It's nice. You also gain Major Fortitude, increasing your health recovery by 40% for 20 seconds. So as you can see, our health is 324. It's not a huge number. It's not even a huge jump. 448 doesn't make that much of a difference. So now, then we have Inner Light. We mostly have it for the bottom here. While slotted, your max Magicka is increased by 5%. You gain Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical rating by 2.6. And then we have Fiery Rage. Create a catalytic storm at the target location that builds for 2 seconds. Then lays waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 9.4k flame damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. So, that's pretty much the front bar. We have a nice little heal here. If you find yourself really not needing a heal, you can always go with Soul Trap, or you morph it, go to the stronger morph, or Entropy here. So, or even Narcotic Orb. So, or not Narcotic Orb, uh, but the other one. The one that does damage, not Energy Orb, but the other one. Can't remember off the top of my head at the moment. So, but yeah, if your healer is kind of iffy, or you just don't trust them, Coagulating Blood has saved me thousands of times in dungeons and in solo content. So, blockade fire on a back bar, slam your staff down to create a flame barrier in front of you, dealing 1.1k flame damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. We want to make sure this ability is down at all times. I forgot it would reach that far. Because this is the reason why helps our Maelstrom staff. So as you can see, our light attack on this guy, 5.4 on a crit, 3.1, 5.8. So, with this though, 4.8, 9k on a crit, 4.8, 9k. So it makes a huge difference when it comes to our light attacking. So we go from, what was it, a 5k crit to a 9k crit. So it makes a huge difference. Eruption. Summon a scorching cloud of ash at the target location, reducing enemy movement speed by 70%, and dealing 1.4k flame damage every 1 second. Deal 6.3k flame damage immediately. So this is a 14-second cooldown. It's 18, so it is kind of weird. If you wanted to, you could. When it comes to the rotation, you're gonna have to, if you want to stay static, you're gonna have to overcast this by a few seconds. So that's just all there is to it. If not, then you might be able to get one more spammable off, rotate, drop it, repeat. So just depending on how quick you are in those 4 seconds there, you might be able to get 1 or 2 off and then rotate and drop it right as it expires, or just 1. It just depends on your rotation, how comfortable you are with it. But for right now, I would overcast it. So, Molten Ornaments. Charge you and your group allied weapons with volcanic power to gain major brutality and sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 36 seconds. Your own damage with heavy attacks is increased by 50% while active. Now, I use this for normal dungeons. When I'm running through normal dungeons, I put that on and just run it. So it saves me from having to use my good pots, my spell power pots. I just use trash pots. But if I'm doing harder content, I drop this for Flames of Oblivion. If you have the spell power pots to spare, you put Flames of Oblivion here and go. If you don't have the spell power pots, just use Molten Ornaments. So, but it's up to you. I mean, that's what I do when I'm doing a harder content. I'm dropping Molten Ornaments for Flames of Oblivion. If I'm in normal stuff, normal dungeons, normal trials, I'm dropping Flames of Oblivion for Molten Ornaments. I'm not going to waste my spell power pots. That's just me. So, then we have Channel Acceleration. Bend time and space around you, gain Major Expedition for 12 seconds and Minor Force for 36 seconds. Increase your movement speed by 30%, critical damage by 10%. If you're using Medusa, you don't need this. So you can drop this for something else. You could drop this for Flames of Oblivion and still run this, because you won't need Minor Force from Channel Acceleration. So, if you don't have Channel Acceleration, this comes from the Stygic line. You can use Trap Beast and morph it to Rearming Trap. It'll last for 16 seconds once it's fully leveled up, and it runs stamina, so it does kind of help on sustain as well. But this lasts for 36 seconds. Honestly, throughout most fights, I find myself only really needing to cast this at the beginning, maybe once in a boss fight, depending on the other DPS. But for the most part, I don't even have to cast this a second time in most fights. So, unless it's a weird fight with a bunch of stop and stop mechanics. Then we have Inner Light again on our back bar. If you do need a shield for whatever, just take this one off and equip Harness Magicka. Now our ultimate is Standard Might. Call down a battle standard, dealing 3.8k flame damage every 1 second for 20 seconds. to enemies and applying major defile to them, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 16%. Standing in the area increases your damage done and reduces damage taken by 15%. An ally near the standard can activate the Shackle synergy, dealing 9.3k flame damage to enemies in the area and immobilizing them for 5 seconds. Now this is the main ultimate that we're going to use. We're hardly ever really going to use this one. So if you wanted to, honestly, if you have mages leveled up, get Meteor. Put it on your front bar. Because with the passive, you'll get more Magicka and more magic recovery. But if you don't have mages leveled up, it's not a huge deal. Just put Fiery Rage here, and you can just go with it. So, Standard Might's the one that we're going to use mostly, though. It costs the same amount of ultimate. So, and it increases our damage. They take damage standing in it. We reduce our damage. It is just overall better ultimate to use. Now, when it comes to DPS and rotation, honestly, 31.1, I'm not the strongest. You definitely could hit harder with this. Or maybe you can't. I'm not sure. But this was with Molten. You will definitely hit harder if you drop Molten Ornaments for Flames of Oblivion. You'd probably be 33, 34k. Somewhere in between there. Plus with poisons, maybe a little more. I didn't use poisons on either one of these. I had some lag there, but apparently not enough to make much of a difference. So, 30k with this exact setup. It's not great. It's not definitely drop Molten Armors for Flames of Oblivion when you're doing harder content. Outside of that, you're going to be fine. So, but without Burning Spell Weave, without our weapon damage proc, 2.3. So let's go ahead and see everything procced. 3.4 by ourselves. So, let's see. With a pot, 1.6k recovery, 3.4k spell damage. So, now, when it comes to rotation, you're going to buff up Channel Acceleration, Molten Ornaments, Drop Eruption, Light Attack, Wall of Elements, Light Attack, Bar Swap, Engulfing Breath, Searing Strike, and then you'll be able to fire off about 3-4 whips, and then go back to repeating. You can definitely, I overcast it right there, but you can definitely fire off a couple more whips before you even have to lay those down. So you can fire off a couple more, bar swap, drop those, and then drop your dots. Use your ultimates when you have them, and in between pots and our ultimate, we shouldn't have any trouble sustaining. Truthfully, should not have any trouble sustaining on a DK due to one of the passives. I think it's in the Draconic Power. Yeah, I was wrong. It was already hard. Alright. When you cast an ultimate ability, you restore 46 health, 46 magicka, and stamina for each point of the ultimate cost. So, we should have no trouble between pots, orbs, shards, whatever we're getting, plus our ultimate. You should never run out of resources. At least in a group setting. So, but yeah. Make sure you buff up. Eruption, Wall, Engulfing, Searing, and then just whip 4, 5, maybe 6 times, and then just repeat. And then you can fire off a couple more whips before you have to drop everything. So, but yeah, that is pretty much it. It is very easy. It is very fun. I still love the Mag DK even if I ain't that great with it. I try. So, let me know how you're liking the Mag DK in this patch. If you think it got better, if you think it got worse. What sets you're using. So, as always, until next time, take care.